back, everybody. Episode 3, Real with Omar. Today's special guest is a really special friend of mine. His name is Ernest Vasquez. He's the broker, owner, and operator of Champion Realty in New York, located in the Bronx. Ernest, a little backstory. Ernest and I met about two to 3 years ago. We actually founded a purpose chapter or purpose organization in the Bronx as founding members, and we left it. We formed it, organized it, pushed it forward, and then we both actually moved on. But when I met him there, him and I we had so many similarities in the way our mindset was and the way we executed our businesses and just our attitude on life that he became, I feel, a friend. And
Right.
the reason I want him on the show is because I want to be able to speak to him about certain things that we might have similar perspectives on, and I want everybody to hear about it. So Ernest, first question for you.
Sure. But thanks for having me on first.
Absolutely,
Appreciate
absolutely. I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you.
I
You know, you
appreciate that.
turned me down a few times. It's okay. You're back. So I'm gonna ask this question. I know that this is really important to you. So the question was specifically tailored for you.
Oh,
All right. How important is association to you when working with somebody? And what I mean by that is when somebody gets referred to you by somebody else, a professional, how important is it from where it came from? Do you understand what I'm saying?
sure.
Right.
Sure. Well, 100% is for me. It's paramount. First of all, right? We want to treat any referrals, anybody that's recommended to us, white glove service, right?
Right.
You going above and beyond, right? But for me, right, and I agree with you, what you do daily is, right, you already do these things, right? So you just take it an extra notch. But for me, it's just paramount because you're an extension, right, of me, right? You're
Right.
recommending
Right.
me, right? And they're seeing, the clients are thinking, wow, you must be just like Ernest. And the reason why I tell everybody my alliances with anybody that I recommend is because they're going to provide service 10 times better than me, right?
Right.
Or they're just going to bring that level of performance to a higher level. So that's important. So anybody that I recommend, and usually the list is very small, and it's because of that.
Right.
So just to answer that question, it's paramount. I mean, it is the reason why you will succeed in the industry if you have all the people that are aligned evenly, right? Or higher, right? Because you want to be in that group where there's somebody there that has a little more escalation that you can lean on.
Right.
Like you, I lean on you because obviously your expertise.
For lending, yeah.
Correct. So that's why I think it's paramount what you do across the board.
I think what people don't really understand is when you refer somebody, whether it's a professional.
Sorry.
Did I take that?
No, I just got cut it off.
Whether it's a B2B, a professional to professional, or a C2B, where it's like a consumer to the business, what people have to understand is that when you refer somebody to someone else, it's almost, you're like co-signing them,
Correct.
right? You're endorsing them, you're sponsoring them, whatever term you want to use. You're basically lending your personal credit, your reputation to this person by extension. And people,
Absolutely.
instead of people just coming maybe shopping you or whatever, they're like, no, I want to work with this guy because this guy, from what I understand, is a real guy who's going to take care of me. And I think that people don't understand. Well, lately I've been seeing on my side, like agency lending, right? The Freddie, Fannie, FHA stuff. That's almost become just a numbers game where, most people don't understand is that, it's a program. You put the numbers in the program, you press go, it DUs, you get approve or refer. And then you look at what's going on. Can you fix it? Can you not fix it? So it's become almost to that point when it comes to those type of loans, it's almost like takeout. It's like almost like on McDonald's or something like that to me. So where my lending is more custom, it's more like what we call a manual underwrite. Like for example, like we have a situation right now. We have an international client, and during the height of the pandemic, it got really difficult to get him financing. But we're getting him financing now, right? The way I did it was a delayed financing deal where he's pulling out money. He's never stepped a foot in the country. We're sending the package out to him. I didn't tell you, but in about a week, we're sending the package out. He signs everything. He sends it back. They review it. He notarizes at the U.S. Embassy in his country, and we close and we fund. Most guys don't know how to do that stuff. That becomes a little bit of
That's beyond their scope.
that's a little calculus, right? Like if most guys know algebra, like there's a little calculus for that. And it's not a shot at anybody, but it takes, that's a client that you had that Had you gone to somebody else, they might have been like, yo, we can't do that deal. But it also becomes, who do you work with, right? Like, you want to be able to work with people that know what they're doing. I think being a sole owner operator, it becomes so important because every deal is important.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
It's not like you have like a big not a shot at compass, but you don't have a big fund that put up money for you.
Correct.
And you just rock when you want. When you're creating your own brand, you're creating your own business. Every deal is important.
Yeah.
I think the association part I wanted to touch on because I know that's super important to you, as it is to me. And most people, they just refer anybody sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, I hate him," or "Why'd you send me there?" and stuff like that. And if you don't take the referral for what it is, which is just a great opportunity, right, to basically do your service, then you're doing a disservice to the person that referred it to you too.
That's true. And in the beginning of my years, I've gone through that all the time. I've referred someone that I thought was who they say they was, and then end up being.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
And then end up being totally opposite, and then it affected the deal, right, in the long term. So again, that's why I said, right, you're an extension of me, and that's why the list is always small, because if I keep the crowd small, right, I understand that at the end, I know who to always turn to. And I've never had a problem being able to articulate to my clients, right, and I say, I'm using you, and I'm using you, and I'm using you. You for lending, you're the attorney, and this inspector. And they use them, and they don't question me, because it's my ability, one, right, the skills that I possess and the knowledge that I have. And so when I'm coming to the table with them, they understand that and respect that, and then they take it. So they go, okay, and they don't question it. Because
you're confident in what you're saying, because you know what you're doing.
Correct.
Because you've been doing it for so long.
So they take my lead, right? So I have situations where I've in a scenario I have right now, right? You're not on this deal, but I have the buyers getting a grant, and they have another attorney through a union. And usually that could be pretty ridiculous.
Painful.
It's very painful. But I broke down on the buy consultation. I explained everything from A to Z and told her what you're supposed to know, what you can do, what you're not, and they know her rights. She knows her rights. And I said, well, you're supposed to hire your own title company.
Right.
And then she asked for recommendations, and I gave her a recommendation. She asked for inspections, right? Because under that union, they give them everything, and it's free, somewhat, because they paid it under their dues. But I gave her the recommendation. I said, look, they're under this umbrella. Try them out, give them a call, and then still do your, have your second, third that you want to get on your own. But they usually go with my person. She went with her attorney because it's free, but she chose everybody else that was in my category. Unfortunately, instead of the lender, because they were getting this grant. This
right, and they work with specialized companies, or specialized servicing companies like a Chase, a Wells.
Correct.
You have to have depository capabilities to do those grants.
Correct.
That eliminates a lot of lenders.
Right.
I have another question for you, and I think me and you kick this idea back all the time, just in conversation. But what do you? I feel that there's this like a very big difference between the producer owner operator and like the owner operators that not even owner operator, even the agents that they're on social media, they're doing this, they're doing that, but they're not doing any numbers. What's your true opinion on that? What's your true thought on that?
So, it's funny, right? Because obviously, right, the social media nowadays have depicted what anybody, not necessarily agents, but just people in general, are doing, right? Or what they perceive to be doing and what they're really doing. Right. I love that Got Milk commercial, man. Are you really closing, right? Do you got closings? Do you have sales? Or all these things matter, right? But some folks, right, if you don't know, if I'm looking from the outside looking in, and then you're posting that you're closing these things left and right, and at the end when you really check these numbers, you're really not doing these things. I used to think of that, I mean, to be honest, I used to think of anybody that used to say I do this much or I do this as egotistical. All right, you're only as good as your last deal. That's what I was always taught. So if you did this, do it, move on, get another one. I'm happy for you, but do it again. Stop talking about it, right? You're not supposed to show your money and the properties that you have. Just do it. Be respectful, do it, and then try to help others get there. And what I see lately that it's not, it's all ego, right? I want to show you that I do more than John and Pete and Rob and Diane. And it's not about that. It's about teaching Rob, Pete, and Diane, right? And moving on so that we can all be in this room. But I guess, I understand that that's not what it's about. It's if I'm better than you, right, I could be here, right? Or if I'm doing more than you, I'm gonna see this, right? But your goals and my goals are totally different, right? What you eat don't make me shit.
Right.
And excuse my language, I tell you I don't hold
Sorry,
back.
it's cable. All right,
Yeah, it's cable.
okay.
So I don't hold nothing back. So it shouldn't matter, right? But we should be able to share that. And when you don't have that, I guess you're not approachable to come to and say, hey, can you? What is it that you're doing differently? And give that insight to somebody else. And somebody's got to pay you or call you to come in to be part of the team. I think it's egotistical for me. So I don't know. I don't really care what anybody's doing. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I used to get on social media. I used to pay somebody just to I guess be with the times, but I don't really care anymore to be with the times. I do what I'm gonna do regardless, whether it's Christmas, New Year's, it's pandemic, no pandemic. You put me in the moon, I'm still gonna sell. So it doesn't matter. I'm not the guy that's pointing the finger saying I'm better than you. I'm looking at the guy that's doing well and say, man, I appreciate that, man, because that's giving me, you're a catalyst to help me do more and wake up and do better. So I see it as problem for me, but again, I don't pay attention to that.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, I think that I've been lucky in my career because the guys that were always doing a lot more than me, like somehow they always kind of needed something from me, and I met them, different guys,
Good.
and it was never like being secular. They're like, oh no, you can't. They were always like, oh man, this is what I do, and the guys that are really doing it will always be like that. They'll be like, yo, this is what I do. You should do that.
Correct.
Whether you do it or not,
That's up to you.
that's on you. But
Exactly.
that's 90% of it. Everybody's like, oh, how do you do this? I was like, well, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I get up at 4 a.m. I do it but for 20 years, you gotta keep doing it, keep doing it, and that's the thing where people. I mean, listen, I love social media. I like it because I get to narrate my story and get it out while I'm behind the scenes doing what I do. But I think that what the new generation is missing is that they're busy wanting to video it, but they haven't done anything yet. So I think it's kind of reverse, right?
Reverse,
like build your portfolio, build your bio, make some achievements, right? Then talk about it. Or even as you and you know what? I'll give a shout out to the kids that be like, yo, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I like those guys. I don't know what I'm doing. It's my first listen. Check it out. I like that. I take that over the guy who pulls up in his uncle's car. I'm not shouting nobody out in particular, but or their father's car, their father's house, and they front like it's theirs. That kind of drives me a little.
But that could be your story, right? You don't know anything. You're saying, hey, I don't know anything, and this is how you started.
Yeah.
And that's it. But you're being humble with it, right? So all that
transparency,
stuff.
man.
Correct.
Transparency. Because the truth of the matter is that the guys that are doing numbers, we all kind of know each other.
True.
Right?
We already know.
And you don't have.
It really doesn't matter, right? You don't have to.
Yeah, it's a little
nobody
extra.
Cares, right?
Right. It's a little extra. But
shout out to a good friend of mine. Says nobody cares, Ernest, man. Why you start telling people your story? Like nobody really cares, and that's true. That's why I said I don't have a story to tell. Everybody has a story, whether you want to tell it or not. That's something different.
No, you do have a story. I'm gonna stop you there. No, we're gonna talk about it right now. So you worked at a place. We're not gonna name names, but let's go there. So you worked at a place for a while. You were producing, right? Because you were always grinding and making sales and stuff like that. But you left the place, right? And you started your own place. Why did you do that?
But there's a couple of reasons, right? If I'm going to be frank, right, which is all I know how to do. They call me Honest Ernest for a reason. I thought that either jail, to be honest.
While you work with somebody else.
Correct.
The options were
because within the window of real estate, right, in the industry, there's so many grimy things that occur, right, and only right, wherever you are, what's happening, because you come to that office every day and you hear it and see it, and if it bothers you, right, if you pay attention to it, you can be distracted easily. But if you don't, like me, I'm like Sally with my one-track mind. I see straight ahead. I'm never looking to the sides, right? Even when I drive, right? And that's not good. But I pay attention to what's in front of me, not what's behind me.
Right.
And so it doesn't distract me. But it can be, I guess, more distracting when it's targeted towards you, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so, that's what was the issue for me. But I think I've never said that any decisions that I've ever made were bad, but I know for a fact that it was the best decision I could ever make. Not because also of the dollars that I produced, but it was just more of the people that I've met along the way. And while the people that I was with before was saying, don't do this, don't do that, oh, this is a headache, don't do it, right? And I still went for, I stepped out on faith and I did it. And, to this day, I'm still excited. And any decision that you ever make and you change, you should stand for it. Because if you don't believe in it, then, obviously.
Who else can believe in it?
Yeah. So doesn't matter. But I had to make that change because I knew it was a distinction of me, going to jail versus, me continuing my career. And it wasn't, wasn't going to go end that. It was going to end nicely. So, but you got to pay attention. Your companies that you work for, you got to see, right? Everybody's always looking, what can you give me? Right? If I come here to work with you, first thing, if I was a regular person, I'm asking, what is it that you're offering me? Is there any insurance? Instead of your mentality being, what can I bring to you to make this company better?
Oh, bro, that was great. That was absolutely. I'm gonna talk about my experience with that. Also, too many people, I get people coming in all the time like to be loan officers, right? And they're like, oh, I want to, I want an 80% split. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, so what did you do last year? And we go into that. But the number one story I always hear is like, I'm like, why don't you? What's going on with your current place? Just kind of, if you don't want to tell me, that's okay, but give me like a little idea. The number one story is broker owners holding back commissions on loan officers, like holding their money, which I'm totally against. I hear you on that. On that note, I told them, yo, I totally agree with you. On the other note, yeah, like that split is ridiculous to me because I'm like, first prove yourself. Give me a 6-month probationary period. We'll do this.
Correct.
And absolutely, I want to keep you. I want to keep you happy, but it's tough where they just come in and say, I want this. And you're like, well, what are you bringing? Because I haven't met a better salesman than me. Exactly. So I'm like, I don't need you. I'd like you to grow, but it's not a necessity. And that becomes like my big thing. So I have like 2 or 3 guys, but I don't think I'll ever be a 30-man team because I don't know if I can find 30 guys like me.
Yeah, it's tough. But when you give something of value to somebody else, that's how you know if anybody that's in your circumference that you're working with, that's part of your group, and they bring value to you, you'll see how long you guys remain together, right? Mm-hmm. Because you respect the value that person brings, and you can tell that person is respecting your value. And there's never ever.
It becomes reciprocal.
Exactly.
Like I do for you, you do for me. Correct. Like, and you want to just keep doing because how high can you take it?
Correct, because right? Because that's why I just told you. I said I'd never have a problem seeing my clients say, "Go to Lewis," because I know the level of service you're gonna give to them, and when they finish to me and they're gonna come back to me because I'm the one that referred. The first thing they say to me is, "Wow, Ernest, thank you so much. That was amazing. I've never aces right. In the hole. Like that's what I look for. Right. And at the end, right, you know who wins there? We do. Again, they call us back, they give us the referral, the repeated business, and that's what you look for. And distinction, right, between a new agent and an old agent is that, right? They don't have their resources in line. They're not, the skill level is totally different. I always use the analogy of a doctor versus a nurse. I like when my clients is like, oh, well, why are you paying the buyers 2%, right, versus you're getting 4%? I said, it's just like a doctor and a nurse, right? The nurse preps, for me to do the surgery, right? I'm doing surgery right now. And later the nurse is going to bandage up, right, and do everything else, right?
Clean it up,
which is easy to do, right, after the big job, right? Saved your life.
Right.
She's just going to bandage you up now, right? So they see that, and they see that that's value. Where buyer's agent, it's not that it's not easy, right? A good buyer's agent, right? I'm a buyer's agent in some instances, right? You have to know how to articulate and explain to your clients what is it that your value, right, that you're bringing to the table. And if they don't see that, they're not going to want to have representation with you. I can call any property, call the number, and have the guys show me the property. Mm-hmm. But if you show value, you're winning. You're going to win. And I think that's the separation there because anybody can show a property. I could, put a suit and tie on my son and have him open the door and show the property and it'll sell.
And put it on Instagram.
So, but it's just being able to articulate to the client what's value of having representation. You got to know that stuff. So there's a tremendous distinction, right, between a loan officer, right, loan originator, right. Those are all different, and just
chief lending officer.
Yeah, there's just a difference of it, but at the end, you're as good as your last deal, 100%. That's where it matters.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on alliances really quick. I think I told you the story about the Queens deal. Yeah. That guy. I got to talk about it because I was in shell shock when I was like, I called him. Like, you believe this?
Yeah.
So I think alliances are super important because you have each other's back. And I'll give an example. So there was a deal where a real estate broker brought the deal to me for me to do the lending on because the other lender they were working with couldn't do the deal. So I brought the deal on. I figured out why they couldn't do it. fast forward, I got it clear to close. So we're at the closing, and where they're doing like, the CD, the HUD, the settlement statement, and once I get it, it was all being done right there. So I got it, and I showed the broker that I said, hey, it shows that you're making this amount. I thought, is this right? I didn't even know. So I didn't question. I was like, is this your amount? He's like, no, my amount's double that. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, do you have like an invoice or an agreement somewhere?
Correct.
And he was like, yeah, look. And he shows it to me, and it was only signed by him. So I was like, all right, man. Okay, so let me see what I can do. So I send out the agreement to the attorneys and the other agent, the other broker. And since I was a lender on the deal, remember, I'm the money. So without me, there is nothing happening.
There's no closing.
Right. So I sent an email. I said, look, the agent's trying to call you guys. I think there's a misunderstanding. I try to keep it really politically correct. I think there's a misunderstanding with the money. He was expecting this, but he's getting this. They were like, well, this is just hearsay right now at this point. Either he takes that or whatever. So I said, okay, and I waited a few minutes, and I sent an email back to all parties involved. I said, look, I really don't feel comfortable funding this deal because I feel that people are not working in good faith. So let me know if this is going to get corrected, or I'll just cancel the deal right now. So luckily, they fought, they argued, but they ended up paying him what he was supposed to be paid. But the moral to the story is, get your shit signed,
100%.
right? And hang out with, if you have a lender like me, or if you have your lender, make sure they have your back, because that could have went a whole other way. Oh, the guy's sitting there almost in tears, looking at me because they're not picking up his phone call, because he's not going to pick up his phone call, because they're like, if it closes, we don't have to talk to this guy. And they would answer my emails, because if I don't say clear the fund, nobody gets paid. So that's just a moral of the story to like all the new agents I hear, and I hear all these stories, but that was the first time I was ever involved in it, that I saw it firsthand. Let me ask you this question. I have another one. We have time? We're good on time? Okay. I have a listing. I'm the listing agent on a deal. Sales price is, asking price like $3.8 million. I get a text from a guy I know who's an agent in another broker shop. And he goes, hey, is the property still available? I said, I have a couple of conversations. We might be going to contract, but right now nothing's signed, so it's still open. If you have a buyer, let me know. Oh, yeah, I have somebody. 1031 money. Yeah, it was ready to go. I said, oh, okay, cool. He was like, well, first off, can I see the property? I said, well, send me your 1031, proof of funds, because it's a big property. It's like a 2 hour to show the whole thing. Send me that. So he didn't send me that. So then he sent me another. He goes, what are the splits on the commission? I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm paying buyer's agent too. He's like, oh man, there's no more there. I was like, I'm paying 2% on $3.7 million. I don't know what more do you want me? I'm like, I don't understand what we're having. Oh, but there's somebody else involved. I'm like, okay, all right. So
that's your problem.
I said, this is the way it has to work. I said, either you're not the buyer's agent, so either put me in contact and get a point from that agent, or you don't have a deal.
Exactly.
I said, right now you're just looking on the internet and you're finding things, and you're not really doing your job. Did I handle that right?
100%. Like he was nobody.
Right. He was just the guy.
He was the squirrel, brother. He's that squirrel running around thinking he was gonna get a nut from somebody else. Like that's my problem here. I telling people that versus like the seasoned agent versus the new agent. You need to learn. You need to know your skills. You need to belly up your skills. Camera guy, any profession that you're in, attorneys. Like that's why you think attorneys are always learning the law, right? Because the law changes every 3 years, right? So they have to keep up with what's going on. Real estate agents should be doing the same thing, but they don't, because they're nilly-willy. They see a check that's beautiful, and then they run and they start buying red bottoms. They buy whatever the nonsense that it is for the day, and they think that they're, quote unquote, the shit. But I got news for you, right? Once you spend that, where's your next deal, right? You live in check to check. You might as well work for McDonald's or work for Apple. They're paying really well at Apple, and you could do the same thing. You can buy the same items, and then now there's no fiduciary responsibility. So you free yourself from that. But don't get in the profession, because then you make us look bad. The guys that are really learning, guys that are really doing what they're supposed to do, you make us look bad. And at the end, I think that that's what separates me from everybody else, right? I'm not saying, I never said I was the best. I never go to a listing presentation and I see the folders in front of me, right? I never, first, don't get intimidated, right? That's like going to a fight and I see because you big, I think I'm supposed to be afraid. That actually helps me. But that helps because I know that she met someone and all I'm coming in to tell her is what she hired me to say, to come to do, and that's it. Take the listing. I don't say, oh, but this person here, I never talk about the next person because that's not my interest. My interest is you as the client. And if I'm able to articulate to you the difference that what I'm going to do to help this house sell, then you should hire me. And once I'm there and they already left and they were here, you're not leaving. Right? So at the end, I think it's my abilities. And that's what I say about everybody else that's new. That you need to keep learning, always teaching. Anybody that says they know everything, oh, I know that. They don't know anything. They know zero. And that's why you are where you are, right? Your level of complacency is taking you there because you don't know how to do anything else. Why don't you try to learn how to do so? There's always next levels.
Right.
There's always next levels.
Yeah, I mean, you got retail sales. I'm just talking about real estate.
Yeah.
You got retail sales where you're just selling houses. You have leasing. Eventually you have developments where you can take a condo like Sirhan does. He gets a whole building development. He sells out the whole building. Then you have another, which is urban development, where you can get involved with developers and build units
in communities.
Right. So I mean,
great.
there's so many different levels to it. If you know where you want to be, go there, right? But
Correct.
don't think that because I sold this house for $1 million, I made, I don't know, $30,000-$40,000 today, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? You got to do that 4, 5, 6 times a month.
Correct.
To really get to the next level.
But it's got to be your mentality, right? Your motivation, your mindset, right? You see, right? You wait 6, 7 months to close one deal for $2 million and you get 6%. That's beautiful. You made $120,000. Congratulations, right? In the meantime, while you waited that 7 months, right, to close that, I closed the same 5 deals, right? Let's say I was always on the buyer side and I charged my clients 2%. Now, because you don't have to disclose, right, from the buy side to the agent that you're getting paid before you did, and you're still getting 2%, so you make 4%, and they all were $500,000 property, so you made 20K.
You made the same amount. Yeah.
I made the same amount, in the least amount of time.
The win would be both. Do that big have
and
that
keep
big
going.
deal, and every day keep working.
Correct.
That's the super win. Question for you.
Sure.
What do you look for when you align yourself with lending partners? What is it like? Do you have any type of requirements or like just things that help you? Like I spoke to somebody else about that and they told me communication was like the number one thing. They felt like, if they could work with a lender that would communicate with them and be clear with them and just kind of keep them in rhythm, that was key. I know you deal with a lot of lenders, right? And you have probably good experiences and bad experiences.
Sure.
You can give us a couple of examples of each and tell me what you look for.
So really on a lender, it's important that they know, right? Obviously, you want them to know because then obviously you're not gonna close this deal. But their experience means a lot.
Okay.
For me, being able to think outside the box, know how to put a deal together. And for me, I'm the type of guy. Once I give it to you, I'm not on top of you 24/7. I need to know what's going on in the deal. That's why I said my circle is small. If I'm giving it to one person, I'm not interested, right? I'm not hawking you about the deal and wanting to know unless the client's calling me about something. Most of the times when they call me, I say, call the lender, call Omar. So, but it's important that they know where they're going, right? What they're doing, and that first initial conversation with the client says it all. Because if it relaxes them, that's it for me.
Pressure's off.
Yeah, the pressure's off for me. There's nothing else to do. But a lot of these guys don't. Again, about learning your craft.
Right.
They don't put in the time to learn the craft. They think they just read one line of the Wall Street Journal and now they know whatever.
And they quote it.
And they quote it.
Yeah.
And now they're, like they're this serious rapper, right? It doesn't take that. It takes you, learning more about your craft, right? Learning what's happening in your industry, and then learning how to be able to articulate that onto your client. But I don't see that in this industry. Everybody thinks that giving out a pre-approval is golden, right? It's like I am, quote unquote shit. And it's not. And it takes a levels of knowledge, right? Your expertise. And you have to have closed, a certain amount of deals. I don't look for a specific number. I just know, being in this industry for quite some time, I understand who are the players, who's closing, who not, who can do these deals. And I think you know this because even the ones that are in this industry, they call you and give you the deal.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
tells you that
Yeah.
these guys are not that they're not that bright. So it's again, man. I use that word. That's my word of the day. Paramount, because
Word of the day.
yeah, I think that nobody really takes the time, right, to learn their craft, and ends up deal crashing, breaking. I had a scenario where the lender didn't know he was calling another lender to get answers about my deal
And you found out?
because he was copying me on the email. But again, I don't look at this stuff, right? I don't pay
Wow.
attention to it most of the time. Even when you send me, so I send you, I said, brother, don't send me these things because I don't look at that. So I don't, because I'm already relying that you're the guy.
Right.
And because you work for a certain company, right? You work for this big name company, doesn't mean you're good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see that a lot. I see that, like the guys who work at the big companies that we won't say their names because we might get sued. They get to sit behind their desk and people walk in to make their deposits and they walk over because the guy knows how to do loans. And usually that guy's calling me or calling somebody in Texas about, how do I do this loan? Does this loan work? What do I need from this client to give to you for you to tell me if the loan works? And that becomes tough because on the flip side of that, it's good for me, as a lender working with realtors. I like to work with realtors that are transparent with their clients, and also like they don't speak out of turn. Like a realtor shouldn't speak for the lender the same way a realtor shouldn't.
Correct.
Yeah, the same way a realtor shouldn't speak for the attorney or the title company. Like if there's an issue, I'll talk to them. I don't know, we'll find out. But I find like a lot of these up and comers, they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. I'm like, nah, man, you have to talk to the attorney about that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't just say that. And just saying it is
Could
enough.
kill you.
Well, it hurts. It hurts the client because now all of a sudden there's friction. Now they're like, oh, but he said you could, and I'm like, I don't know why he said that.
True.
I don't know why he said
But
that.
it also goes against your fiduciary responsibility as an agent. When you signed up, it told you, right, that you cannot speak, right, about, if you're not an attorney, you don't have a degree in law, even if you do, but you're practicing real estate, you can't give them that type of advice.
No legal advice.
You refer to those people. Talk to your attorney, talk to your inspector, talk to the title company. Same thing with now. As far as loans, you should know, right, how to calculate numbers, right, and give them round and about, but you don't say these are the numbers. You say, look, this is what it could be, but you need to sit with the lender, right, to find out because I don't know the rates, or this is all an estimate.
Right.
Same thing I do with my seller. When I break down, right, what they're walking away with at the end, I said, look, these numbers can change based on what you accept in an offer.
Right.
Right.
This is a roughage.
Right. This is a rough estimate, but it's so that you have it in your cerebellum where you are going to be, right, at the end. And I never see that. And agents start saying, no, this is the rate, this is it. And I had to pick up the phone and say, brother, why you tell your client that that's the rate? Mm-hmm. You're not doing the loan, who's doing the loan? I saw your pre-approval and the loan says Wells. Mm-hmm. And I just talked to Wells and Wells saying no. They're doing there's a lot of their loan that were good for these not the no doc, what was it? Where
No income?
No, not no income, where they didn't
No appraisal?
Oh man, I'm catching the blank right now. But where they charge them a higher rate and
No closing costs.
No closing costs,
right.
and then so the rates were higher, and they were banking it on what they said on the pre-approval. I said, you don't know what the terms are going to be when they sit down with the lender, so don't do that, right? Tell them that's to your end, right? What you did, accept the offer, and now refer to the lender. But again, man, that's the difference. You can tell, right, that the agents now don't put in the work to try to learn, to try to articulate to the client, to take them in the right direction. They're only concerned with the money and not the person. The transaction, for me, the people is the most important thing. Yeah. And I got to tell you, before it wasn't that scenario. I just cared about the dollars. As I said, look, I did the math. If I could do this time on the deals and I do it, I made X amount of dollars. That's all I cared about. But it became, personable for me because I know I was doing something that a lot of people was interested in getting, was sustainable home ownership. Nobody was talking about putting somebody in, especially Latinos or just people that couldn't afford a property, into a property, and they were doing it, and they were learning in the process. They were meeting other individuals that were articulate and smart that they can come back to, other professionals, and they took that and ran with it, and they always come back. So I think it's changed now. I do like, though, the now agent is that they think outside the box to a certain extent, but they don't go as far to try to grow more. And so I think that's where they stop right there. They don't cross the street, if you will.
Yeah, when you said a sustainable home ownership, the one thing I remember is in 06, 05, before the meltdown, everybody was getting an ARM, adjustable rate mortgage.
That was it, the ARM.
Yeah, the
That's
ARMs,
what Wells
yeah.
was giving them.
Oh yeah. So an ARM is an acronym for adjustable rate mortgage, and before the meltdown, that's how they put most people into properties. They give you a teaser rate of like 2%, 3%, and then year 5 it would jump to 8%.
9.
And that's what created the issue that we ended up having, besides other things in the economy. Now ARMs are not prevalent. They're available, but not many people use them. But I think going back to, the agents back then, and this is when I first got into the game, so I didn't really know anything from anything. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. You refinance in 2 months or 2 years or whatever next week, and that's how they would sell it to the client. Oh, take the ARM. Don't worry about it. And I personally had a problem with that. I was like, look, man, if he can't barely afford it now, why put him into it?
Right.
And that's where I kind of not made that many friends. I made some friends and some allegiances, some alliances, and I dismade some because I was like, I don't want to work like that. I don't have that in my conscience.
Correct.
Because a lot of people call and that's their lives. That's their life. At the end of the day, people are buying their homes and trying to establish their life around the home. And if you give them something that they can't sustain, they're going to be displaced soon.
Yeah. And especially in those times, they relied on the lender. Every person played a key part in them becoming a homeowner. And if you didn't do the right things, I'm sure 9 times out of 10 they became, a foreclosure or short sale because you didn't do the right things. And if they could, right, if they were probably led the right way, you wouldn't see that. They would use, right, like a lot of folks, they use their home as cash cows, but still be able to sustain it, right?
Right.
Which is not what happened in 2008, right? 2007, 2008.
They were buying things 106% financed with teaser rates with no income checks.
Incredible.
Well, what do you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, right. Yeah.
So those are the scenarios. But again, it's paramount, right? That we have, you have the right people aligned with you every day, right? Even, at home, that works, right? I tell people, right, you gotta, whatever you do in your business, you should think about having the same thing in your family, right? If you're a religious person in your religion, your beliefs, right? And then mindset for me has always been to tell people, man, although I might have a little bit of skills with my hands, that didn't make me. What made me was this, right? I have the strongest part of my body is my head, my brain. What I put in here, what I use it for, and that's what takes me where I want to go.
It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And that's it. And I work out my head more than I work out my body. If I could do that vice versa, I'd be Lou Ferrigno in here. So, which is my favorite guy back when he played the Hulk. So, because I used to say that I was the Hulk, right? I used to say that. So you don't want to see me when I'm angry. So, and it worked out for me because I think a lot of people understood, right? So if I crushed you, I crushed you. I didn't stop. But again, man, I think in this industry, we need a lot more people that are smart, right? That know how to make decisions on the fly. And I got to tell you, one of the things I like about you is that you make decisions on the fly. You step on that pen, you're like, I stepped on the pen, but I know I can make it back. I can bring it back. Like you're thinking already after the fact. And that's important in any industry, in any scenario that you're in, because you know that you're able to get yourself out or you're able to come out of it or do it. And if you can't do it, you say that. I like that. I can't do it. It's not doable. I like that word. He says not doable. Sorry. And it doesn't stop. It doesn't make that person think otherwise. And that's what we need, as opposed to, I had this with a lender that, I won't say his name. I want to say his name.
Won't name him.
Won't name him, but he doesn't know how to tell somebody no. I can't do it. It takes 7.5 months to tell somebody no.
No way. It's 7.5 months of wasted time.
Holy smoke.
Here's a mortgage fun fact. A deal we did a couple of years ago. So the reality is, if you're a mortgage broker lender like I am, and I sell to investors, right? You guys call them banks, I call them investors. The rule is this: if I run credit, remember this deal, from my facility, it's a guaranteed credit report for 90 days. So they are supposed to use that credit report, and for 90 days you don't have to rerun credit. We had a situation where we were buying an investment property, and what happened was I sent it over to the investor, and she had they reran credit. So I had a credit report already. They reran credit. On their credit report, something showed up that we found out a payment that was late, but we found out later that it wasn't applicable. But I didn't have to deal with that. My argument was like, you should have never pulled the credit. You have my credit. And when I articulated the argument, they said, you know what, you're absolutely right. And they took my credit report and we closed the deal. Mm-hmm. Had that been another bank, they would have killed the deal right on the fly. And if she would have went somewhere else, it would have been an instant dead deal. So it's very important to know the rules, right? You got to know the rules of engagement to play this game. And I think if you get anything from this podcast, know the rules of engagement, and you guys, you and your team can win.
Correct.
It's when the guys don't know what they're doing or don't know how to say no or can't be real with you. Ernest, listen, this is not a deal right now. We've had deals. Like, listen, she's a 6-month project, bro.
Yeah.
We have to fix this. We have to do this.
Correct.
So she's on the back. She's not ready to go right now.
Correct.
And we have a few deals together right now. And we have one that's ready to go. I was like, yo, they're good to go. They can buy something tomorrow. And he's working off the information I'm giving him and vice versa. So it's super important when you team up with people to be really a craftsman at what you do and be able to communicate with your team so that they can be effective, because at the end of the day, it's, time. It's our time.
100%.
It's our time.
So it's paramount that you learn your craft. Paramount.
So, Ernest, in closing, where can people find you?
You can find me at IG, right, at Champion NY Realty. Also,
Email address?
Email is same thing, championnyrealty@gmail.com. My phone number, right, 917, has never changed my cell phone. If you call me and prank call, right, don't forget, right, that I know who you are. But my numbers, I can be 718-823-5290. And I'm always at your disposal for any questions, right? You can always reach me.
Tearing up the Bronx with Champion Realty. Thank you.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right.